Well, good morning. You're listening to WXOX 97.1 and FM on the FM dial, and we are in Louisville, Kentucky. This is Artist Talk with LVA, the show produced by Louisville Visual Art, and I'm your host, Keith Waits, and I'm talking to Lance G. Newman II, let's get it all in there. He's a writer, poet, host, actor, a performing, visual, and teaching artist. He's got his hand in everything. His experience is the culmination of a 16-year career performing around the country. As a playwright, he helped create plays such as the Smoketown Poetry Opera, the West End Poetry Opera, and The Blood Always Returns, as well as, oh my gosh, Lance, an actress theater, what was it?
Finding Black Boy Joy.
Finding Black Boy Joy. Yes.
It's a lot, Keith. You got a lot on your hands to talk about all the exploits. So
I know,
go
man.
ahead.
So down. Under the name Spread Love Enterprise, he teaches his creative writing and public speaking curriculum in schools, community centers, service providing organizations, always giving back. He co-hosts the largest and longest running poetry slam in Louisville, created the public art LITS project on 4th Street. That's poetry, that's verse in the very sidewalk you walk on. He just managed the annual Southern Fried Poetry Slam here in Louisville, which by all accounts was a big success. We'll ask him to talk about that a little bit more. And the night before this is airing, last night, he was presented with the 2022 Bill Fisher Prize for the Visual Arts by the Community Foundation of Louisville and the Louisville Visual Arts. So I could not be more pleased to bring Lance Newman on the air this morning. Lance, how are you?
I am awake, Keith. Thank you so much for that introduction. What a mouthful. I appreciate it. I usually go ahead.
Well, I believe in keeping him short for the radio, but I was like, hey man, he's getting this prize. We gotta lay it out there a little bit.
No, I appreciate it because people, I always let people do their own research. They go around the room, tell us what you do. I say my name is Lance and I do stuff. I kind of leave it at that and let them go on their own research. But thank you for laying that out. It has been an interesting career.
Like an ego monster if you did that. That's why it's up to me as the host.
Right.
So my job. That's my job.
Right on.
You don't have to say it. So first off, congratulations, man. This is I think the 4th. I should have checked that since I'm one of the people that manages the process. The Fisher Prize, which of course was Bill Fisher, who was an artist here in town forever, and he died a few years ago. But he actually established this award before he died. He and his power of attorney, Douglas Summers, he wanted to go to working artists, not to be some, there's some really nice opportunities in Louisville from people like Great Meadows Foundation, but they're tied to specific sorts of experiences. And Bill Fisher just wanted to be supporting funds for a working artist.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how you can tell how much of an artist he was by what he, earmarked the funds for. That is exactly what a lot of artists out here are needing. That's just what we need. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have somebody pay for you to fly off somewhere in the world, but you also just need to pay rent, have a studio, buy supplies. It depends on what your ambition is.
Come on. And what we find is the artist often has a 9 to 5, right? The regular artist has a job that after they pay bills, after they feed themselves, after they take care of all their responsibilities, the little money they have left, they put into their art, right? Could you imagine having $20 and using it to buy a canvas, buy some paint, or buy one paintbrush? Because $20 doesn't go far in an art supply store. So it's those are the funds that are needed. I always think about the days of old when we had Shakespeare and all of them were around, Picasso and everybody, and they had grandmothers or godfathers, right? Godparents, right? And these godparents would pay their utilities. They would pay whatever they needed. You want some food, you got it. And they just allowed the artist to create because they saw the value in what was being created. And that is what Louisville is missing, right? Bill Fisher, he definitely, which is so dope, from the grave, is being that godparent to Louisville artists. But we need so many more Bill Fishers out here, you know what I mean?
Well, I want to talk. Let's start talking about the work. In my time watching you, and of course I knew you first as a spoken word poet, I've seen your work at Actors Theater. Besides the Finding Black Boy Joe, you were in Romeo and Juliet, and a couple years ago, online pandemic productions. And but as a visual artist, you know, I feel like one of the things that's satisfying to me about seeing you get selected, and I was not on the jury. There were 5 people. I sat there and helped them get through their discussions and decision making. But one of the things that was talked about among those people that I've watched too is that I remember just even a couple of years ago, some of the stuff you were doing, this collage work with the black and mild, all this kind of stuff. The work was real rough and rustic, and it looked like it would smell like those cigars, right? It had a real, you know, I'm not sure how to say it more. It's just that it had a real rough quality. And then the last, maybe even the last year or so, I see the stuff like the piece that went to the Kentucky Derby Museum. There's and I don't have these titles in my head, but like the things I was saying, there's one of an old man who's like, and that, you know,
Bill Trailer.
The same techniques, but you have become so much more subtle in your use of those materials, and to such a beautiful effect. And I was just like, it's so cool, right? Because I'm looking at artists all the time, and I don't know why, but it still excites me when you see an artist grow and make that sort of leap in some way. And I think your work did that in the last year. So that's why I feel like it's a very satisfying choice in my mind, because I think your work rose to a level where it merited that attention.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. When, you know, it definitely, when I started, I definitely wanted to create fine art, right? I never know the distinctions between these names we call art, right? But fine art always kind of, I definitely wanted to be a fine artist, so to speak, with my art. And it's crazy because, you know, I'm going to give a lot of credit to my apprenticeship with Stan Squarewell, right?
Yeah.
So like if you, I'm sure you all familiar with his work out of DC and New York, and I actually met him. It's crazy how things come to fruition, and our journeys kind of explain themselves. But I first met him in New York on a date with my wife now, and it was a double date, and I was in his house, and it was all this artwork, and I was just amazed. And you know, he said he was an artist, and I was like, I have been trying to do this. This was in 2017. So in 2018, if you remember, I was part of the first Hadley cohort, right? The Hadley Creative Cohort. And, you know, this was a 6-month intensive training on like making a career out of being an artist. But the funny thing is, when we say artists, we automatically mean visual artists, right? You just tell somebody I'm an artist, they automatically say visual artist. So a lot of the programming was geared around visual arts. And I was like, I have this sketchbook. I've been sketching and like trying to create these like sculptures in my little sketch pad for years. I mean, I've been doing this for years. I always wanted and like planned on being a visual artist, just never knew what medium I would use to create my visual pieces. So the Black and Milds developed with the Hadley Creative exhibition. We had an exhibition, and I was there as the second poet, me and Hannah Drake. And I was like, you know, I'm gonna use this opportunity to try my hand. And that's another thing, like opportunities, the opportunity to evolve, right? The opportunity to grow into something else is all we need. So without getting on, so that's why the you know, the work was rough, but then working with the material so much, it allowed me to find the sophistication in it. And then working with Stan really gave me like more insight to the process in which I apply things and the process in which I go about creating these images. So I'm glad that y'all see it. I'm glad that it's like visible in my art. We always look at artists and we always like examine their works when they died, and this was his blue period, and you know, this was the period that, you know, COVID happened. And with a lot of the work I do, being a multidisciplinary artist, I really want folk to look back and examine my body of works in these past like 4 or 5 years and just really understand that like I was growing, and some people didn't like that, and most of the people like celebrated it, and they allowed their artists to grow. We don't allow artists to grow. They do something, we like what they do, and we want them to keep doing it. As soon as they try to experiment and go off of the cuff, all of a sudden we're no longer fans, or we forget that we cherish the work that they did in one body. So I appreciate everybody allowing me to grow.
Well, you're right. People do you sort of become iconic or identifiable, or there's a certain sort of trademark thing, and then people think they understand you. And I think they feel good about that they're smart and they're with it. And then you shift. And all of a sudden they're not with it. But that's a whole nother thing. But let's get back to your work. Talk to me a little let's talk a little bit about subject. Cool. In some of this work, because am I right that some of this stuff is ties into family history and things like that?
Very much so, very much so. So and I'll give you piece names. The Will of Aunt Eliza, that is a piece that is in the Kentucky Derby Museum right now. We'll actually be having a artist talk back. So they'll do an interview. We'll have like a panel discussion at the Kentucky Derby Museum on August 11th.
Cool.
So yeah, look out for that. And it gives everybody an opportunity to look at the gallery. You really should see the exhibit. It's really nice. But like that subject matter, self-taught, the Bill Traylor portrait, that's the old man. His name is Bill Traylor. He's an artist, self-taught artist, born into slavery, and his work is at the Smithsonian right now, or the American Natural History Museum in New York, right? So you have those pieces, and those speak more about just the latent talent, or the latent, like the people. My bigger pieces and my portraits, I always like to do them of people who aren't known and should be known, right? But when we get to my like 9x11s, which I'm going to make bigger, and hey, I got this prize now. I can freaking expand. It's so awesome. Because I do a lot of my work on found objects, right? The alleys that I drive through in the West End that have me paying for new tires regularly. It's really hey, city, if you're watching, like take a magnet through the alleys in the West End, please. I catch so many nails. I'm giving you my bill. Anyway, I pick up doors, and I pick up like a lot of the stuff, and there's been a lot of evictions lately. So like there's a lot of pieces of just wood and just scrap people's lives, like pieces of people's lives, all in my alley, and I've been collecting them. And my wife calls me Sanford and Son. She calls me Lamont from Sanford and Son, because I would like come home with a freaking door tied to the minivan.
Well, I guess it's better than being called Fred.
Right. No, seriously. Come on now.
You're not
the
there.
Next generation. Right. But no. So like my smaller pieces, portrait, it's like the subject matter. I have been my mother moves easily. She's like, if I don't like it, I'm up, I'm gone. And I have been kind of drafted into keeping all of like the family photo albums, the family, like everything that I think is important to our family, that my mother was like, whatever, if it's dead weight, is dead weight. But I've been keeping a lot, and I have them, and I like go through them. And of course I get inspired by other vintage pictures of Black people. That's normal. That's normally my subject matter is African American and people of the African diaspora. Those normally is my subject matter. But I get inspired by these pictures in my photo album, and I do a lot of kind of recreations of those pictures. My more popular ones that have been recent and early, they come from why is his name escaping me? He's a famous photographer, Black photographer, first photographer of the New York Time or the Time magazine. Ron? It'll come back to me.
Not Gordon Parks.
Yes, Gordon Parks.
Okay.
Yes, Gordon Parks.
Gordon Parks Jr. too.
You said what?
I think it's Gordon Parks Jr. too.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Thing. Went on to make films and stuff.
Hey, anyway, the man's pictures are still inspiring, right? And so a lot of
Yeah.
my I have like a huge folder that's just flooding with different pictures. But I will also, like, in those pictures, I want to also give light to those people, those photographers. But for my like photo album pictures, like the pictures in my photo album, who knows who took those, right? And it's like, if I can find out who took those, even better. Like, maybe not only with my recognition, I get recognition for other people in my family. And, yeah.
Well, a lot of times, in families, in certain generations, it's like there's an uncle who's always the guy with the camera, right? Like you'll find like a lot of those pictures will come maybe from one person in the family.
Yep.
That was kind of their thing at each gathering. They pulled out the brownie or whatever, or they pulled out the, and everybody else was
the land camera.
It's covered, man. Uncle Duke has it. We're covered.
Exactly. Which even speaks more to the nostalgia and the I don't know if you've seen my I am, I was, I am, I will. This is a chant that I got on a t-shirt. But just three phrases that I believe encapsulate our reality and where we're at. And I think that those uncles and those aunties who had the camera and were like, they knew how important the poetry of life is, right? This is why I'm making this transition and why I want to make this transition because, and I put it in my application that like 3 minutes is not enough. 3 minutes is not enough to encapsulate the true feeling or mood or context of a person. And in Poetry Slam, I've found that a lot of people use that 3 minute context to judge a person. And that's not enough. It's never enough. And with visual arts, I feel like I can give that context more. I feel like I can play with that context or give the opportunity to the viewer to apply their own contextual interpretations to the pieces while still having the framing of, just the name of the piece, know. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting when you talk about, you're sort of raising the idea in my mind about the differences, like as powerful as your use of language has been, it can be spoken word particularly can be more elusive. Like you're there, you're in the moment, you hear it and you walk away. But with like printed matter or visual art, right, it has an opportunity to maybe live with somebody in a different way.
Come on.
Yeah.
Seriously.
They have your piece in their home. It's taking up residence.
And that's why it's so crazy. I will say also, not like just for transparency's sake, and also for any other artists that are listening right now. Like I'm making more than I've ever made for any poetry, anything I've ever done. It's like, people are willing to live with something that they can, like the people are willing to pay for something that lives with them on a regular basis, right? That's what we do. We commodify. We're trying to commodify art. It's hard to commodify spoken word poetry. You can buy a CD, you can buy a book, you could but you're not living with that poem each and every day. And it just wasn't satisfactory to me anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just couldn't, I don't know. I needed more. It's so funny. A piece that was just purchased, the winner is Hattie McDaniel. And you can find these on my Instagram, shameless plug, Mr. Spread Love. But right on. Okay, cool. But the winner is Hattie McDaniel. That was the first Black person in general to win an Oscar, right? Yeah. And she won it for her role in Gone with the Wind, right? And there is a huge I guess there's an asterisk next to her name within the Black community because of the role she got that success for playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The mammy character perpetuating stereotypes. And there's a conversation that needs to be had amongst the Black community, but also amongst humanity in general. It's like, what are we celebrating? You know what I mean? And are we celebrating somebody else's, like what somebody else is clapping for, or are we, celebrating what we think it should be clapped for, or what is it that we think should be clapped for? I'm so happy she won the Oscar. I'm glad that she was a trailblazer and she deserves every recognition. Like just because she played that role, like she played that role only as she could, and she brought humanity and she brought dignity to it as much as she could. And to blame her for playing the role in general is just, you know, I'm not.
You know, the character of Mammy in Gone with the Wind, and so many things about Gone with the Wind are very fascinating. We could do a whole show about that, but I will just say, just not too long ago, I decided I wanted to watch Gone with the Wind again. I hadn't watched it in forever. And because I had always maintained that I think Hattie McDaniel's work in that movie is a great performance and an important performance. Now, it comes with all those asterisks, like, you know, she's Mammy. She's not, there's not a name. And there's like, you know, you sort of like, where's her family? Did she have to give up her family? But because I went on and found that, which was on, don't mean to plug, but it's the streaming service connected to Turner Classic Movies, it came up, this thing came up, and it was a panel discussion. And there was this black film critic, and he had Molly, I hope I get these names right, Molly Haskell, who's one of the great women film critics dating back into the 60s, and who's done lots of scholarly work and has written about this. And then there was a black woman film critic and a black woman professor, and they were all talking about Hattie McDaniel and Butterfly McQueen in those movies and the significance of them and the things like that. And again, how Hattie McDaniel, when you watch Gone with the Wind, she's a very important character. She's at every crucial moment in the lives of the leads. She's actually more present and more important than a lot of the white characters around them. You know, she's there when the baby's born. She's there when the kid dies. Spoiler alert. She's, you know, she's there at all those important moments. And she's one that, you know, and it's just like, so
she gives the emotion to those moments, right? Like her artistry properly frames those moments, and it's so necessary. And to like, and this is another thing about why I use Black and Miles, right? Like, so I smoke Black and Miles, right? The cigars, and you know, they have a variety of flavors and everything else, and I've never dabbled in the other flavors, and it's just regular Black and Miles plastic tip. It's what I order when I go to the store. The liquor store around the corner, because we got so many, said they call me Too Black, because I come in there and I order 2 Black and Miles. Like they know what I'm about to order, right? So so like there's a mildness to blackness that is necessary for survival in America and in any European you know, state or country. It's like there's a mildness that is mandatory. We saw Hattie perform it. The self-taught Bill Traylor goes his whole life. He wasn't recognized as an artist until he was 86 years old, drawing with pencil, and not even a big color pattern, like black, blue, and yellows and reds, but like he with a pencil and on the back of like signs and on the back of like little discarded pieces of paper and poster that he found. And it's like 86 years old. Like he couldn't even come out and be like, I want to name myself an artist, because that would have been too much, you know, too spicy, or, you know, too above mild, too hot, mild. You got to be decent. You have to be, and you know, that's how it's so crazy how it incorporates. Because, you know, I use the cigar papers, which is a great, first of all, it's terrible that we are inhaling these things. Like, I have to wear masks, which I'm glad that I got the award for, because I needed to buy like, you know, real deal masks, because the plastics that I work with are super toxic, and I've been kind of guerrilla style.
Just to be clear, you're not talking about like masks, the issue of like masks out in public and stuff. You're talking about having like a good sort of breathalyzer thing. Yes. So you're inhaling these fumes from the materials you're talking about.
Yes. I need like a professional, not professional, but like spray paint, like the mask that spray painters use, you know what I mean? Because the materials are so toxic, really. You know?
It looks like a bug. You got the 2 filters like that.
Yeah, yes. So necessary. I mean, I've really felt the damage on my lungs. And it's crazy because this the piece that I did for Hadley, the original collage that you mentioned, rough. I like rough. You can even say like I don't know, Stan, he always talks about my work like not being perfect. He's like, there's a beauty to the imperfectness of your pieces, and you don't need to lose that. People go to school and they lose that. They learn how to make the curve right or how to make the leg point
Right on.
properly. But you know,
Yeah.
he was like, keep that, keep that, you know, roughness. So
Because if you smooth out all the rough edges, you lose the Lance Newman. I mean that's true for
straight
anyone.
up.
You have to always be aware of how you're expressing yourself. What's that piece that makes it yours
Mhm.
and not somebody else's, and you
Come
don't
on.
want to lose that stuff.
And it's a beautiful, it's been such a beautiful transition. I'm Keith, I can't even tell you how like I'm filled. My cup is, and I'm motivated again from this award, because like I was very disheartened by the scene and just how Louisville has been treating its artists, and it's like I'm full, bro. I'm glad that I finally get that recognition, that I can actually expand, right? So you said this in the article, which you all should check out. It's very cool. But I'm going to use the funds to expand my garage, because I'm working out of my office right now, and like carrying a 6x2 door panel, or having 3 of them so that I can like make the whole collage properly is like super cumbersome. My kids come in and try to climb it. It's like just such a problem. So now I can finally like move into my garage. And see, this has been an issue for me too, was finding studio space. Of course, y'all have been working diligently to upgrade the LVA spaces to house more artists, and we're appreciative of that. No worries, it's all good.
Well, we're
Um,
frustrated with the delays.
I mean, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. But you got that studio space. You got studio spaces that are owned by um, wealthy people in the city that I believe are doing more to harm and separate the city than they are to bring the city together. So, like on a principled matter, I don't want to rent space from them. Then you have people who like, you got spaces. There's all types of spaces here and there, and gas is crazy, and like I liked working in my house. It wasn't like, the problem was just the room. Like I needed more room, and I only got one car in my garage. It's like perfect. Like I just need to there's so many things that I just need, little small things I need to fix, and then boom, I can work on these like huge door panels, or I can get my printer and have my like little. I'm just excited. I'm excited.
It's great to see you so excited about it. And I think that's a perfect thing. Like, Bill Fisher were here, he'd be like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He needs space and now he can have it. That's what it's for. Um, but I do want to, we have concentrated on your work as a visual artist, but I do just want to take, before we lose it, we still have some time, but I don't want to lose track of time. I want to ask you to tell us a little bit about how this Southern Fried Poetry Slam went. It seems like it was a triumph. Give a little bit of a report card, because this just didn't happen and you were there as a poet. You were the person who, well, you can tell us this, but you managed it. You ran that show. So
Yes, I was.
how did it come to be that you did that? How did you get it into Louisville? And then how was it?
Well, for your listeners, you all, what Keith is talking about is the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. It is a Southeastern regional poetry slam that has been going on for 30 years now. It is now the largest poetry slam in the nation as of 2017. And it is a tournament style poetry slam that invites 30 up to 32 teams from 32 different cities and 16 individuals, bouting it out and going head to head for 4 days in any particular city. Now, Keith, I was going to correct you earlier, but I didn't want to. I wanted to wait for this moment. This is the second time that I've hosted, right? In 2017, Louisville hosted the Southern Fried Poetry Slam with the help of Kentucky Center for Performing Arts. And that one went very well. I mean, it was the 25th anniversary. We gave away Louisville Slugger bats. Oh yeah, you all are listening to this, so it doesn't help for visuals. But excuse me.
Yeah, there we
Still
go.
there? Okay, sorry about that. But yeah. So in 2017, we hosted 32 cities. It was nice. It was good. Everything went well. COVID really put a dent in the tournament or festival. And we'll talk about that distinction in a second. But the COVID really kind of messed us up. We canceled. We were supposed to host in 2021, or no, excuse me, in 2020. They canceled. We were supposed to host in 2021, canceled again. And then 2022, we finally got the green light in January. And normally you have 2 years to plan a festival like this. So me and my co-director, Stevon Edwards, she's amazing. Both of us planned this whole thing in 6 months. And then with the help of Ezra Yelton, we facilitated to a T. So, all right. So report card, just give the background. This year around, we actually did different locations. The first in 2017, everything was in KPA, so you didn't have to go far. But this year around, we used the resurfaced space. We used Wiltshire Pantry. We used the Mex Theater at KPA. And we also used Roots 101. And it was really good this time around because that's the spirit of Southern Fried. When I've been going to Southern Fried for 15 years. All right. Like my first Southern Fried was in 2007 in Columbia, South Carolina. And it changed my world. Like I realized that art, and it didn't even, and this is kind of, we can tie this into visual art because it really spans for all the arts. But when you go to like artist conventions, like, which is what Southern Fried is, it's like, or for spoken word poets, it's like you're expanded. Your mind is expanded. Your ideas of what can happen are expanded. And it took me 10 years to get it to Louisville. Because like, again, I went once and I was like, okay, I got to bring this to my city. I have to make this available for the people and artists in my city. We were talking off camera about like, you know, bringing experiences to Louisville and making Louisville better, like not leaving Louisville so that you get your experiences, but getting those experiences and bringing them back to Louisville. Right. So that was definitely an effort with Southern Fried, and this one went well. It was funny. It was crazy. We got kicked out of Actors Theater, no fault of their own. They have union workers, like the show needs to stop when the show stops. But it actually
so you were having a thing and the energy of it, like it was just going to go and go, and they had to say, no, you got to leave.
Well, we can get all night. Yes. Well, what happened? Yes. There was some confusion on Southern Fried's part about who's running the show, forgetting that I'm Lance Newman. And no, I'm playing. But we went over time, and Actors was like, hey, we can't do it. I'm sorry. But it was cool. We went to the parking garage and finished the slam, like our finale slam, like the highest 4 scoring teams. Baltimore, I think it was Houston, Texas, Richmond, Virginia, and New Jersey, New Jeru. Like those were the top 4 teams, and the last round was done in a parking garage with people on both levels looking down, circled around. I mean, it was a beautiful moment.
Oh my God, that sounds so cool. If you planned it that way, it wouldn't have seemed that way, but because it happened, right. It did. That sounds great.
And this is the art, right? This is the art. Yeah. This is the art of life. This is the only thing that me and other artists are trying to imitate, these moments of mistake that have beauty come from it.
I also love the idea that it emphasizes that art doesn't have to happen inside a particular space. It doesn't have to happen inside a gallery, and it doesn't have to happen like performance art doesn't have to happen inside of a theater. Right. That it can move and be anywhere, and perhaps, it's about people, not about the walls or lack of walls or whatever. It's just about the people.
Which is another thing that has, upset me about being an artist in Louisville. We give a lot of play to the institutions here when it is the artists that we have got to be supporting, man. I mean, I really don't know how else to say it to Louisville, that like, if you're not supporting the artists, we are going to lose all of the renaissance that is happening, And we can't do that.
No, I agree, man. And I think that, a lot of the times what I see is that the different institutions and different sorts of silos of creativity, whether it be performing or visual or music and all this kind of stuff, theater, that a lot of times they have their own audience, and people get very, there's a lot of people that go to actors theater, respect to Robert and actors theater, but they think that's the only theater they can go to, or they go to the touring shows, which is great, but that's not local.
Right.
And you see that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of theater in town, and there's a lot of poets in town, there's a lot of there's artists in town, and it's not just at one location or one place. It can be found sometimes out in a park or whatever, and so I think there are people that will just that never maybe go to actors theater, but who will go to Rush Trowell's place down there on 17th Street. I don't know. It's but you know what I'm saying. It's like,
I do. It's and there needs to be
in the neighborhoods,
right? And we're suffering for it, right? Like their audiences are suffering for it. Our audiences are suffering for it, because the audiences that never been to actors theaters should definitely have been. You know, we had finals there, and I had people that had never been in there before, and they were like, "Wow, this is a great theater." You know, we were in the Bingham Theater, so it was the Round.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the headache I got from the poets. Like, are you a performer or aren't you? Like, you can touch all four sides of this circle. Like, don't get all hissy fit. There was so much prima donna, and that's another thing that Southern Fried has taught me. That like, there's a humility. Like, people will see this award, see me get this award, and feel some type of way or think that I'm undeserving of it. But I know in my heart of hearts how much work I have put into like just even getting here, which is nowhere near where I want to be. But it's like I've hosted poetry slams in abandoned buildings. I have hosted poetry slams in office buildings. I have like busked, right? Like went out with my stereo. I had to ride bikes and take the bus out to like Joe Creason Park for interviews for community centers in the West End. It's like there was a lot of work, and there's a lot of work that a lot of artists are doing, and we are all on our journey in different ways. And like, it is not for us to like judge where somebody is in their journey. All we can do is like help. Like that's all Bill Fisher is trying to do, right? Like, he's not trying to judge where I am. He's not, and you know, the people on the panel, like, they don't know about the years of like turmoil, man. Turmoil. Like, how am I going to pay? I was freaking lending the little lending place. We're not going to get into it. I'm sorry. I'm getting into my feelings, and I'm not going to get into my feelings. But the little lending thing, that's such a scam. Like, I was caught in that for like 2 years. Like 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, never having enough money. And it's just,
yeah, the little lending places are evil.
Evil.
I know I know people who have gone through that stuff. Yeah.
You know, we shouldn't have to lend. I shouldn't have to go to that place. Like, no. You know, and the people that are out here, there's a lot of artists out here that I know that just really shouldn't be going through their issues that they're going through. You know, so it is what it is, and we can only do so much. Yeah.
Well, you know, and we can all keep working on those issues, and and the sad thing is that they'll never go away. You have to keep working on them.
Yep.
You know? But that's I don't know. To me, when people talk about community and things like that, it's like, that's what I think it means. And I think a lot of Americans have lived under a fallacy for quite a long time now. That I think the last few years, you know, you can say whatever you want about COVID, but I think we are in a period that COVID is an element of, where we've had to really re-examine things about America. You know, I know that I've had a lot of that, where, you know, civil rights, voting rights, all these things that we thought were locked in, and we find that everything was like the law of the land, and it can all get pulled back. It can all get taken away. So we've got to keep working. We can never stop. You never get complacent, because somebody's there waiting for the moment you get complacent to reach in and take it back.
That's real. So real.
So I don't know. I don't know what this has to do with Bill Fisher, but you know, it has to do with our daily lives.
Right. No, that's what it has to do with Bill Fisher, because he knows he was an artist, man. He said, I'm going to give these funds and I'm just going to let the artist decide on how best to use them. And that's what we need more of, because, you know, getting a grant to do something specific, that's a contract. It's not a grant, you know. So, but what I want to say, are you covering the Fringe Festival? Are you going to the Fringe
Yeah, I'm
Festival?
gonna be at the Fringe Festival. What is it, the 28th, 21st?
I think so.
I got
the play I'm gonna be in is the 30th, I think.
Yeah, I'm covering it.
Okay, cool.
I'm
Check it out.
disappointed last year because they announced the dates really late, but I was going out of town. I had tickets to a show out of town and I had a whole week out planned. And I'm like, man, that is the week I am gone. But it was a show that, you know, I bought those tickets like 2 years before, and then it got postponed, and then it got, you know, COVID pushed it off and off and off, and then finally was there, and it was like the week of Fringe. But I'm not missing it this year, man. I'm gonna
nice.
we're gonna have a show with some people from the Fringe.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, like right before the opening. Yeah. So I'm aware of the Fringe. Well, listen, we're starting to run out of time here. The one thing I want to say, just because I want to take the opportunity, is that, you know, I know a lot of artists look at these kinds of things like Bill Fisher, which winds up with one name, gets awarded, and it's out there, and we celebrate that name. And they all think like, man, they don't think I'm any good. I'm going to tell you, man, these jurors worked really hard. And I want to say, when we get down to like those finalists, those last half dozen people, so like any one of those people would have been a terrific pick for Fisher. Yeah. That's why, and it also emphasizes that to say like why, like when you get it, it's not like it was you and 49 other bad, you know, submissions. There was a lot of great submissions. There's a lot of worthy artists in this town, and that's why we'll come back next year and do it. And that's why, just for the record, you can't do it again. So we'll probably have you on our tree next year.
I would love it. No, and that's the purpose, right? That's the purpose.
Yeah. So, you know, that's you know, we can't give it all away too fast, or we stop giving it away. So
right.
Yeah. So Lance, thanks so much, man. As always, it's a pleasure. I feel like I could just do that. We could sit here for 3 hours and do this.
Easy.
And probably not
Easy.
Everything.
Easy.
So but again, Lance G. Newman II is the recipient of the 2022 Bill Fisher Prize for the Visual Arts, given out by Community Foundation of Louisville and Louisville Visual Art. And so go Lance.
Yeah, no, thank you, Keith. I appreciate you. I thank you to the Community Foundation, you know, and big shout out to Bill Fisher, man. That's love. I hope to do that one day too, right? The Lance Newman Prize. Exactly. I would love to do that.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
You know, you come to us when you want to do it.
I got you.
Okay, man. We're gonna sign off now. Thanks, Lance.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.